Accursed thing!
Good riddance.
Down, beast! Wild take it!
That was close. I would give anything for a sip. oasis in the desert. Stand tall.
Shaven filth!
I shall aid you. Fight with intent. I will do my duty. May that serve you.
The Akaras have embraced the trial. It is fortuitous that the Sisters of the Sands understand the value of tradition, even those that are forged anew. Zarok has started the process of blessing the halls within. It worried some sisters, but he means well, and I believe it will bring luck to the aspirants who come here.
Begone, foul creature!
Pack's heavy enough already.
different here. You will have war nights.
Care for a story? I've got some trinkets. This could be useful. Stay in sight.
What have you learned?
Old roots find new soil.
boom, 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 boom. Oh, what do we do?
For it, afore they find their footing. Down you go. Take it!
A druid knows to travel light.
What? I've got some trinkets. Ah, that's nice. I will tell your tale.
End of the line.
Old power burns anew.
Speak up. I got some trinkets. Here, have this useless gold.
Down you'll go. Nature takes what's old.
Here for a story? I've got some trinkets. This could be useful. Stay in sight.
Blood for blood! Nature takes what's old.
Can it carry any more?
Hello! All right. Oh, this could be useful. tell your tale. What? I've got some trinkets. Do not wander.
Mortal fool.
Hello? I've got some trinkets. Stay inside.
blood. Wild take ya.
Hello, you young one. Here, have this useless gold. I will tell your tale.
Down you go.
I'm full up.
Careful story? Oh, right. Of course. I'll ask Chambrin about this one. stay inside.
you again. The fool under the Hooded One's sway. Do you even know what he is? No matter. You'll find my king far more capable than Count Geonor. My king, take the power you were promised. Put an end to this nuisance.
Ah, the Sycamore of Yardora. Bow before your king. The era of the Faragon is now! The era of the Faragon is now!
Submit! You are finished!
The era of the Faragon is now! We will have what is ours! For my people! The Barakat will pay! The era of the Faragon is now! By the sands!
Speak up. Oh, right. Of course. Ah, that's nice. I will tell your tale.
Not the place for such things. Only the strongest leave this place standing.
monstrous wretch!
Impressive endurance. A great challenge overcome.
Nature's fury!
I'm full up.
else take you.
Pack's heavy enough already. Pack's heavy enough already.
Misshapen filth!
The ritual has been disrupted.
I'm full up.
Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to beat Rattlecage, the Earthbreaker, in Path of Exile 2. So against this boss, you're going to primarily want to do ranged DPS and avoid any melee damage, as most of his damage does come from melee hits and close range hits, and you have honor, so you want to make sure that you don't run out of honor, or you're going to have to start back at the beginning. The rocks will fall from the ceiling throughout, you just want to make sure you avoid those that are coming onto the ground. You're going to kite the boss around the room and just avoid any mini volcanoes that are on the ground. He's going to drop a fire crack that'll turn into mini volcanoes. As long as you stay away from those and you just keep walking around the map doing ranged DPS, you can very easily beat this boss. If you're running out of areas that do not have mini volcanoes, you can go to the top of the room that has a rock and you can kite around the rock repeatedly and just do DPS to the boss while you're kiting around the rock. There's only one attack he does that you really want to watch out for, which is the strong AoE slam. He does it 3 times in a row, and each time he does it, the radius of the slam gets bigger. And it does a lot of damage, so you do not want to get caught in that. Other than that, you're just going to range DPS him, kite him around, and this boss is actually pretty easy. If you have any questions, drop them down below, drop a like if you like this content, and enjoy the rest of the boss fight.
Beware of the burst.
Ubuntu, SUSE, Amazon Linux, and Red Hat walked into a bar that only Linux distros can get into. They sat around talking about the bulletproof kernel code they all shared, but then out of nowhere, a 732-byte Python script penetrated the back door and beat them all to death with a baseball bat. Last week, a 100% reliable logic flaw was discovered in the heart of the Linux kernel. It had been sitting there quietly since 2017 until an AI scanning tool surfaced the issue, wrote an exploit, and even designed a fancy website for it, and it affects basically every Linux machine on planet Earth, or at least every machine updated since 2017. That means if you run a Linux server, or you're one of the top 3% of absolute units who run Linux on desktop, you need to update your stuff like yesterday. Any script kiddie who watched this video I made a few weeks ago, it can easily take control of your machine with tools like Metasploit. It's no joke. CrowdStrike has already confirmed that attackers are using this script in the wild, and CISA has already put it on the notorious Kev list, known exploited vulnerabilities. In today's video, we'll look at the technical details behind CopyFail CVE-2026-31431 and find out why Linux sucks and you should only ever use Microsoft Windows. It is May 4th, 2026, and you're watching the Code Report. Personally, I love Linux, but my private equity Illuminati handlers want me to tell you it sucks in order to control the narrative and sell more copies of Windows. What's kind of
And this is obviously very fun.
Pack's heavy enough already. Pack's heavy enough already.
Impressive endurance.
twisted thing! Begone, foul creature! Begone, foul creature!
A great challenge overcome.
Hey guys, Cal Torak here. This is an introduction to Thorns. Thorns is the take damage to deal damage build. It's the ultimate form of stop hitting yourself.
This is a fun thing. This is a fun thing. Here we go, boys. GG. See ya, boy.
To get started, you'll want to find some gear with Thorns damage. You can primarily find Thorns damage on belts, shields, and body armor. Once your character has Thorns damage, when an enemy melee strikes you, you deal your Thorns damage back at them. When you combine it with the effects of Crown of the Pale King, all hits you take will reflect Thorns damage, not just melee strikes. Thorns does not just reflect damage. GGG has put a lot of effort into making this silly reflect playstyle a viable endgame build. Through the support gems Thorn Barbs and Thorn Burst, you can turn any melee attack skill into a weapon of thorns. After reflecting Thorns damage, Thorn Barbs and Bursts make your next several melee attacks deal additional damage based off your Thorns. This enables you to play Thorns any way you want. I've successfully done Thorns builds with spears, maces, quarterstaffs, and palm skills. My favorite choices are Bone Shatter and Shield Charge for maces, Shattering Palm for unarmed skills and quarterstaffs, and Rake and Rapid Assault for spears. Another way GGG has made thorns easier to access is through the spirit gem Scavenge Plating. When you break armor, you gain a stack of Scavenge Plating, which gives you some thorns damage. Despite being nerfed in the early game, Scavenge Plating is more than enough to help with the early game lack of thorns gear. As long as you're breaking armor and maintaining stacks of Scavenge Plating with this. Warning, even with this, thorns as of right now is not solo self-found friendly. As you can tell, thorns gear is required to play this style. A large portion of your damage is coming from thorn stats on gear. There are also many thorns uniques that can help out with your journey. While thorns is an absolute blast, it will require some trading. So keep your eyes on these level brackets. Your thorns damage doubles at each of these levels. You will want to replace your gear as soon as you hit these points. Now, if you are leveling thorns with your second character, just make sure you have thorns gear for every level bracket and you will have an insanely fun and easy time leveling. For those league starting thorns, until you have a full set of thorns gear, with both thorns burst and thorns barbs in your preferred skills, you won't experience the full power of thorns. Expect for the majority of Act 1 to be playing not so much thorns while you acquire gear. Do not expect thorns to come fully online until sometime in Act 2. For Ascendancy, I'm going to be recommending 3. The passive tree is where we get a large amount of our power for thorns. This makes Titan arguably the best endgame Ascendancy for thorns. There
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to another episode and a new week of China Update, where we discuss leading political, economic, and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony, coming to you from Auckland, New Zealand. I'm in my hotel at the moment. Forgive the informality of
The foe ahead is formidable. Steel yourself.
Come on, then! You great lump of stone!
Stand clear.
Uh-oh.
the slam. It burns. Beware of what falls. Look out for the slam. Beware of what falls. Stand clear. Look out for the slam. Beware of what falls. Beware of what falls. Stand clear. Beware of what falls. Beware of what falls. Look out for the slam. It burns. Beware of what falls.
So much heft, and still you fall like the rest.
I knew you would succeed.
I'm full up.
Greetings. May that serve you.
Seems I've a decision to make. I stand with the elements, and they with me.
It is done. You are no... I am... This... Should you... Goodbye.
of the environment. The audio may be a little bit suboptimal as well. My apologies, hopefully it's not too distracting. Now we have a lot to cover, a big development from over the weekend. Let's jump in. And first up, a series of US policy moves targeting China's technology and energy sectors is injecting fresh tensions into an already fragile relationship ahead of the anticipated meeting between leaders Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. As we will see, things escalated quite dramatically over the weekend. According to UK-based Reuters, the US Department of Commerce has ordered several chip equipment suppliers to halt certain shipments to China's second-largest chipmaker, Hua Hong Semiconductor. The move appears aimed at slowing Beijing's progress in advanced semiconductor manufacturing, particularly as Hua Hong reportedly pushes toward 7nm chip capabilities, technology critical for artificial intelligence applications. The timing is notable. The restrictions come just weeks before the Xi-Trump summit, raising questions about Washington's strategy. Some analysts suggest the US is increasingly concerned that China is closing the gap in the good enough AI chips, especially with reported collaboration between Huawei Technologies and Hua Hong. Others argue the move risks undermining prior diplomatic understandings, including those reportedly reached in Busan, South Korea. However, the effectiveness of the export controls remains uncertain. If the US orders do not explicitly cover foreign subsidiaries of American firms, shipments could continue through overseas channels, potentially blunting the policy's impact while still provoking Beijing. At the same time, Washington last week is escalating pressure on China's energy trade. The US Department of the Treasury last week warned global financial institutions about sanctions risks tied to Chinese teapot refineries, independent processors concentrated in Shandong province that import discounted Iranian crude. The US has also sanctioned major players such as Hengli Petrochemical, which we covered about almost 2 weeks ago now, signaling a broader push to choke off Iran's oil revenues. These measures place Chinese banks and firms in a difficult position. While Beijing does not recognize unilateral US sanctions, as it puts it, major financial institutions often comply in practice to preserve access to dollar clearing systems. Smaller refiners, however, remain deeply tied to Iranian supply chains, often relying on opaque shipping networks to maintain flows. Then, things got especially interesting over the weekend. On Saturday, China ordered domestic companies, for the first time, to defy US sanctions, marking a significant escalation in the economic rivalry between the world's two largest economies, and raising fresh risks for the global financial system. The directive announced over the weekend, like I said, targets US sanctions imposed on 5 Chinese refiners linked to the Iranian oil trade. In a notable shift from past practice, Beijing is no longer quietly allowing firms to comply with US restrictions to protect their access to global markets. Instead, authorities have explicitly instructed companies not to recognize or adhere to the measures, invoking a blocking statute introduced in 2021. China's Commerce Ministry said the US sanctions unlawfully restrict normal trade and lack a basis in international law, particularly without authorization from the United Nations. The order bans domestic entities from complying with the sanctions and allows affected firms to seek compensation in Chinese courts from parties, both domestic and foreign, that cut ties in response to US pressure. State media framed the move as a turning point. A commentary in the Communist Party's flagship newspaper, The People's Daily, described it as a, quote, pivotal step, end quote, in transforming China's legal toolkit from a largely symbolic reserve into an actively deployed instrument of economic statecraft. At the center of the dispute are major private refiners, which were sanctioned by Washington last month. These companies play a critical role in processing crude oil, much of it sourced indirectly from Iran, into refined products such as gasoline and diesel. China remains the largest buyer of Iranian oil, as regular viewers of China Update know all too well, even as such flows are largely absent from official customs data. The decision is already sending ripples through China's financial system. Banks with exposure to the sanctioned refiners are scrambling for guidance from regulators wary of being caught between conflicting legal obligations. Compliance with US sanctions could now expose them to legal risk at home. while defiance could trigger penalties or exclusion from the dollar-based global financial system, which of course is still the dominant financial system globally. Analysts warn the move could escalate further if Washington responds by extending secondary sanctions to Chinese financial institutions or major state-owned firms. Such a step would significantly raise the stakes, potentially forcing Beijing into broader retaliation. The timing is also notable, coming ahead of an anticipated meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping later this month, which we touched on at the beginning of the episode. While the dispute may not derail the talks, it underscores a deepening willingness on both sides to weaponize economic tools, even when, in China's case here, there is a disadvantage. China's move here is curious, however, as it does seem that it is the much weaker party in a global financial standoff, with only domestic Chinese companies, especially banks, really at risk. Ultimately, China's decision signals a more assertive phase in its response to US sanctions, one that could reshape how global companies and banks navigate an increasingly fragmented financial landscape. However, there is also a chance that it could spectacularly blow up in China's face, forcing Beijing to walk back the measures. We will follow this space very closely in the coming weeks and see what exactly the outcome for Chinese banks will be. Next up, in China, food is far more than sustenance. It is culture, identity, and increasingly a matter of national security. In a tightly controlled media environment where politics and social issues are often muted, images of abundant meals, steaming hot pots, and richly prepared dishes have become a powerful symbol of prosperity. Food, in many ways, embodies the modern China dream. Yet beyond this imagery lies a complex geo-economic reality. China is the world's largest producer of grain and meat, but it is also deeply integrated into global food markets. Since joining the World Trade Organization in 2001, the country has grown increasingly dependent on imports, relying on foreign suppliers for roughly a third of its food in the early 2020s. A third. This dependence has contributed to a massive agricultural trade deficit, reflecting both rising consumption and structural constraints such as limited arable land and water scarcity, both of which are worsening by the year. While global trade has enabled China's food abundance, it has also introduced vulnerability. Unlike the United States or the European Union, which are largely self-sufficient, China remains exposed to disruptions in global supply chains, an issue that has gained urgency amid geopolitical tensions and conflicts such as the war in Ukraine. For Beijing, food security now ranks alongside energy and finance as a core pillar of national strategy. In response, China is accelerating efforts to reduce reliance on imports, particularly in key areas like animal feed and protein. This includes investing in agricultural technology, promoting genetically modified crops, and supporting innovations such as alternative proteins and biotechnology. The goal is not just to boost domestic production, but to reshape the entire food system through a coordinated state-led approach. If successful, the strategy could have far-reaching global consequences. Reduced Chinese demand for imports, especially soybeans, from the United States and Brazil would disrupt established trade flows, forcing major exporters to seek new markets. At the same time, China could emerge as a leading producer of advanced food technologies, from lab-grown meat to high-efficiency farming systems. I don't know how many folks would be quick to try the first batches of Chinese lab-grown meat, however, though in some poorer parts of the world it may end up being a cheap source of imported protein. It is also possible, however, that China is not successful in this transition, and that it remains very vulnerable to global shocks which can hit its food security hard. Ultimately, China's push for food security reflects a broader shift, a move away from dependence towards self-reliance, driven by both necessity and ambition. Whether they succeed or not, of course, is another question. Now, next up, we have two more developments to cover, but just quickly, if you want to continue to be on top of the most up-to-date analysis on all things China through grounded and sober analysis, consider subscribing to China Update at the bell notification icon, and you will be. If you're getting some value from today's episode, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you'd like to help keep China Update financially sustainable, I rely on you, the audience, to keep going. If not for this community here, I simply would not be able to make these open and free for all every day. Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. For everyone who supports China Update, thank you so much. I simply could not do it without you. Next up, China's largest airlines are accelerating a major pivot toward Airbus, in a move that highlights how geopolitics is reshaping the global aviation industry. China Southern Airlines and its subsidiary Xiamen Airlines have ordered 137 A320neo family aircraft from Airbus, with a combined catalog value of roughly $21.4 billion. The order includes 102 jets for China Southern and 35 for Xiamen Airlines, with deliveries scheduled in phases between 2028 and 2032. As is typical for large aircraft deals, Airbus is expected to provide substantial discounts, meaning the final transaction value will be significantly lower. The agreement reinforces Airbus's growing dominance in China's aviation market at a time when Boeing continues to be sidelined. Chinese airlines have not publicly placed a major order with Boeing since 2017, reflecting persistent trade tensions and broader political friction between Beijing and Washington. Additional deals underline the trend. Air China Cargo has confirmed an order for 4 A350F freighters, with options to purchase 6 more. Altogether, Chinese carriers have ordered around 390 Airbus aircraft since late 2025. The pattern suggests aircraft procurement is increasingly tied to diplomacy. As China deepens ties with Europe, Airbus is benefiting, while Boeing remains largely locked out, unless geopolitical conditions shift, or perhaps the current US president puts more pressure on Beijing to buy more Boeing. And finally for today, we started with tensions and we end with tension. Tensions between the Philippines and China have also escalated again after Manila accused multiple Chinese vessels of conducting unauthorized research within its waters, raising the risk of another maritime confrontation in the already volatile South China Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard said 4 Chinese ships were engaged in what it described as illegal maritime scientific research without proper approval from the Philippine government. According to a Coast Guard spokesperson, the activities violate the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which requires coastal state consent for such operations within its exclusive economic zone. In response, Manila has threatened to deploy aircraft and patrol vessels to expel the ships. The vessels were reportedly operating in sensitive and contested locations. 2 were spotted near its Bayat in the Batanes, while another was detected close to Rizal, Palawan, near the disputed Jackson Atoll. A 4th vessel was seen near Scarborough Shoal, a long-standing flashpoint between the 2 countries. Philippine authorities said one of the ships is a highly advanced oceanographic survey vessel capable of deep-sea mapping and geophysical exploration, while another is an, quote, intelligent drone mothership, end quote, designed to deploy dozens of unmanned systems for comprehensive maritime surveys. Beijing swiftly rejected the accusations. The Chinese Foreign Ministry insisted the vessels were conducting, quote, normal scientific research, end quote, in waters around Chinese jurisdiction, in accordance with both domestic and international law. It urged the Philippines to cease what it described as, quote, dangerous actions, end quote, and maintain distance from Chinese ships. The incident comes amid a broader pattern of rising friction between the 2 nations. The South China Sea has long been a geopolitical hotspot, with Beijing asserting sweeping claims over nearly the entire waterway through its controversial so-called 9-dash line. These claims overlap with those of several Southeast Asian nations, including the Philippines, which won a landmark 2016 international arbitration ruling invalidating China's expansive claims, though Beijing has refused to recognize the decision. In recent years, encounters between Chinese and Philippine vessels have become more frequent and confrontational, particularly around features such as Scarborough Shoal and the second Thomas Shoal. Recent developments have further highlighted tensions. Both sides have traded accusations over activity at Sandy Cay, an unoccupied sandbar where Chinese personnel were reportedly seen raising a flag, prompting Manila to dispatch its own Coast Guard units. The Philippines has also deepened security ties with the United States, including expanding access to military bases under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which Beijing views with suspicion. With both sides hardening their positions and increasing their presence at sea, even routine encounters now carry the risk of escalation, and in some cases, even military escalation. The latest standoff underscores how scientific research, although in this case it may not strictly just be scientific research, resource competition and strategic rivalry are increasingly intertwined in the world's most contested maritime regions. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Have a good Monday, have a productive week, and I hope to see you for the next episode tomorrow.
Can interpret but never fully understand, and in that void between the real and the perceived impose meaning compelled by what we'll never know. Today we're going back. We're going flashback. Released in 1991, this game was available for most consoles available at the time, plus PC, but all I've got is the Super Nintendo version, so that's what we're playing. This was part of a trend of so-called cinematic platformers. Many of these games are considered classics because of the way they elevated games as an art form, took it seriously, and confronted audiences with complex, sober stories. They weren't just reflex-based arcade games where you hop on Goombas to rescue a princess. They told complex stories like films. So, will flash back to lighten us down, or will it put the ass back in classic? Let's find out. It opens with a pretty impressive 3D cutscene that was clearly intended for PC because the Super Nintendo was really struggling. Still, many Super ports at the time would have replaced these with a static slideshow, so the fact they even tried to keep it is impressive. Okay, so your character crash lands in the jungle with no guidance on who you are or what you're doing here. Well, turns out that's intended. Your character has amnesia and needs to figure out why he crash landed in the jungle. The only thing you know is your name is Conrad. The first thing you notice is that the animations are very smooth and lifelike. Because like Prince of Persia, the developers rotoscoped actual footage of actors walking and jumping. This does lend the game a certain weight. When you drop down off a ledge with your pistol drawn and ice tube mutants, it feels super badass. Yeah, take that, you mutant fucks. The second thing you notice is that the controls are ass. Every time you push a button on the controller, Conrad takes one giant step forward, or jumps, or rolls, or draws his gun, and you need to wait for the whole animation to finish before you can do anything else. And that'd be fine, but the game still has tons of reflex-based obstacles that require very precise timing. One of the very first challenges you're given is jumping over this pit. But to do it, you need to start running on the previous screen and then enter the command to jump before the new screen has even finished loading, or you just run off the ledge into the pit below and then need to climb back out, waiting a short eternity for Conrad to go through his life.
Down you'll go.
Pack's heavy enough already.
Young one. Here we are. I'll ask Chambrin about this one. Do not wander.
That'd have me out in me arse.